Hello and welcome to our February 1st Select Board Roundtable. I am Beth Cassavant and I am joined by my colleagues Chair Mo DiPaolo and Clerk Teresa Flynn and Member Michelle Conlon, and we're really excited to be here recording in a brand new location that isn't even open to the public yet. We are in the new police station. We're in the lobby right now and it's getting there. You can't see from the shot all of the construction materials around us, but it really does look like it's shaping up to be an operable station. And so, Mo, as a member of the building committee, we are hoping that you might be able to give us some insight on where we are in the construction and what the public can expect in the next coming weeks.
Sure, but I thought I'd give just a little background, to let people know some of the history of the building, or at least some of the background. So this building cost $37 million to build. And it's on budget, and if we stay on the track we're on, we might come in under budget. That's $37 million for the whole project. The building itself is about $29 million to construct, about $8 million in soft costs. That's the architectural, the engineering, and all of that. And then the radio system, the town-wide radio system, which is separate, but we brought them to the voters at the same time, is $5 million. That's up and running. It's almost 100% complete now. So anyways, it's a good-sized building. It's about 43,000 square feet. The existing building is about 17,000. That was built in 1971. It was renovated in 1996. In 1990, I didn't realize this. I was looking some of this stuff up. In 1990, there were only 22 staff for the police department, and there's 69 now. Actually, 69 in 2020, and there's more than that. There's a lot more than that. So everything has grown, the town's grown, and they need a station this big. And I think when people walk through and see the rooms and how it's divided up, they'll understand why this building is so big and is being projected to meet our needs for at least 50 years. So anyways, so yes, the building it's probably about 98% complete. The second floor is essentially complete except for some punch list items. The furniture's up there. It's pretty much clean. Got the final cleaning. So that is ready to go. The furniture's been up there for a couple of weeks. The way they've been working the building is from the top down. Get that clean. Nobody goes up there. So that's pretty much finished. The second floor isn't big as the first floor. And it's mostly the detective bureau and the senior administrative staff up there. There's some other offices up there too. But that's pretty much done. Furniture's in there. It looks really good. The space up there compared to what they have is just, any place you go, it's mind-boggling. The first floor, there are places like down here where you see a lot of stuff, but it's all miscellaneous items that they have to finish up right now. And I can tell you from being in here Monday and being here tonight, there's a lot of stuff that's done. Once they get it done, they're out of here, and you can see that it's finished. So that's going along. I talked to Keith Baldinger, who's also on the committee, and he's the head of public buildings, and all the furniture that's supposed to be in the building is in the building. Most of it's in the rooms. So that part's done. In the dispatch room, which people can't see from here, but it's over to our right. All of the equipment's in there. Two of the units, actually, the dispatch stations actually could run right now. They all are capable of running, but they won't get activated until they move in. It's got something to do with the way the 911 works. They turn them on. So they're all set and ready to go. And so there's a lot of cleaning up in here, and odds and ends, and this will be ready to go. So within, well, this is the first. Schedule is to start moving in here the third week, the beginning of the third week in February, so around the 15th. And over, it varies, so who knows what the actual date's gonna be. But they'll start moving in here, and within a week or so, they'll be in the building. And then they'll be fully operational. So that'll be exciting.
Very.
And then after that, they'll be in here, they'll be fully operational here. That building, the old police station, will be empty. Everything that they need is gonna be in here. All the evidence will be moved, all of their supplies will be moved. And then the contractor moves in there. There's a small amount of hazardous materials, some PCB in the caulking. There's a little bit of asbestos in there, not a real lot, because when they renovated, they addressed a lot of that. So there'll be some inside work, there'll be construction fences going on, and after that, the building will be torn down. So by the end of March, that building won't be there anymore, and they'll start grading and putting the drainage underneath. So that most of that's going to be a parking lot with some green space in it. Just two other things. I think most people don't know it, but there's two memorials going out in front of this building. One of them is a 9/11 memorial. Any public safety organization in the country can request a piece of one of the buildings that went down at 9/11, and they can get it. And police department requested it, and collaborating with the students from Assabet, they made a monument, and the architects created a little place for it over, and when you're looking at the entrance of the building, it will be on the left-hand side. That is actually done. So I don't know when they're going to actually put that out, but it's completed, and it came out really good. So we have, that is going to be there. And on the opposite side, there's going to be a monument to fallen police officers. And the students at Assabet are building that right now. So in a couple of months, both of those will be out there, so it's really neat. But this building is pretty much done. It's getting there. All of a sudden, it'll be open and live. And I was going back and looking at stuff. We started working on this, not working physically on the building, but we started the planning and stuff like that in 2019. It's 2022. So time went by fast.
23, yeah, goes by quick. Yeah, thank you for the update on the station. The question I hear most is, will there be an opportunity for the public to come in and see the new building?
They're talking, I don't think, that's not going to be the building committee, but yeah, they're talking about tours, but I think that'll come after they settle in a little bit. But the police department's anxious for people to see what they have, what they paid for, and what modern policing and modern police station looks like.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's going to happen towards the end of March and into April.
And then behind us is the training room, but isn't that also set up for, we can have public meetings there if need be? Is there a second space for public meetings?
There's three places actually. In the section that we're in, this is the public part of the station. Everything else, it's like the old police headquarters. You can only get in a certain space without being allowed in by somebody from the police department. But as we're looking out towards the front of the building, there were two rooms, there were two meeting rooms in the front of the building on either side of the main entrance. And they seat, I think, 12 seated, and if it's a standing meeting, I think there's 18 on both rooms. And there's two public bathrooms here. And then behind us, there's a presentation room, a training room that's tiered. I think it's 4 levels, and that holds about 50 people on the tiered section. And then down on the bottom, there's a big flat section. So if people want to have a meeting where they're on the floor, tabletop exercise or whatever, they can do that. And that around the police department's needs, those 3 spaces are available to the public, and also the people at the town hall are going to be able to use that space too, because we don't have enough meeting space.
Right.
So yeah, nice space.
Right.
I'm sure it's going to get well used.
Yeah. Thanks so much for the update. It's exciting. Can't wait to see it operational.
Yeah, I was in the current police station the other day, and first it just really brings to life how much this is needed. But when you talk to our police officers, how much they need it to do their job to the best of their ability, and certainly the chief has been very vocal about bringing us to 21st century policing. But I don't think anything is really as important as public safety in Shrewsbury, and I think that this is a great addition to really enable our staff to do their job. It's exciting. I guess on a note, we should say, don't come here until it does open. They're watching. I pulled in and quickly had a patrolman, asking politely if I was all set. But yeah, they're watching. Don't want us getting too close.
Yeah, exactly. So our strategic plan is completed, and in the spirit of increasing community engagement and communication with residents, I know that you, Teresa, brought something forward, an idea that you had about participation in town meeting and a forum that's coming up out of that idea. I was hoping we can switch gears a little bit and you can talk about sort of the idea that you had and how you see it coming to fruition.
Yeah, I think it's something that we've all, thought of, which is every year we get to town, meeting elections, and there aren't enough candidates to fill the positions that we have, and it's how can we reach out and get people involved. So you're absolutely right, Beth. That's part of our strategic outcome area of engaged and connected. So we are hosting a forum on Wednesday, February 8th at the Senior Center at 7 p.m. And it really is meant to help inform residents of what town meeting is. So just by way of background, town meeting is a legislative body of our town's government, and we have 240 elected members across our 10 precincts. And really any registered voter in Shrewsbury is eligible to be a town meeting member. And it's a really important role. I mean, I won't belabor the point, but if you look at any major decision that's made in this town, it is something that goes through town meeting. So it's a great way to be involved and engaged. Former select board member John LeBeau, who is also an active town meeting member, will provide, he does a great job of just providing an overview of our town government and what town meeting is. And then we'll have some town meeting members on hand just to kind of share their experiences as to what it means, the time commitment, et cetera. I think some of those important considerations for people who may be interested in being a town meeting member, and we'll also review how to get elected. So spoiler alert, it's only 10 signatures from registered voters in your precinct. It's a pretty easy process, but I know that is a part of the process that can be very intimidating or overwhelming for people. So we just want to have others who have gone through the process, share their experiences and maybe take some of the stigma away from that.
Your own signature counts as one of the 10 as well. So you really only need 9 extra
Good to
signatures.
know.
It's good to get extras just to be safe, but your own signature does count.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah.
So good to learn that. But it'll be good. We'll have the town manager and other town staff on hand to help answer questions. I know many of us are intending to be there, and the town moderator, who is the presiding officer over town meeting, will also be on hand to help answer questions. And, even if you don't think you want to be part of town meeting, I think it's a great way to meet your town meeting members. I think that's another one of our initiatives is to, when we talk about engagement, we talk about things that are before the select board or other boards and committees in town, how can we make town meeting members more aware in real time, and how can we help enable and empower them to, get information out to residents. So kind of a first step in our process.
That's great. I hope
Yeah.
it helps. I'm really looking forward to seeing it all come together.
I hope so.
Yeah, it was a really wonderful idea. So I think a lot of people don't realize it is a fairly light time commitment, and I think a lot of people don't realize how much of an impact it can have for how little of your time it requires. So, and it really is an important thing. I've been in town meeting for a few years, and it's really exciting. And there's been some really exciting changes that I think have happened for the betterment of our community that were decided by town meeting. It really does make a difference.
It's a
So-
checks and balance system too,
It
right?
is.
So that the power, in quotes, right, is spread evenly amongst more than one person. Like our board doesn't make every decision for the entire town. Sometimes we bring things to town meeting and they're not passed, and that informs us as to which direction the town is looking to go in. And sometimes we go to town meeting and things do pass, and it just, we know that we were heading in a direction that people were in favor of. And again, I think the piece that's probably most critical is that vote on the budget.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
having a say in where every single tax dollar is spent, that all happens at town meeting.
Yep, absolutely. And I know as we're getting ready to put together what will be on the town meeting, what articles will be on the town meeting warrant for this year, it really does bring to life how important this legislative body is, and what an opportunity it is for people who maybe sit back and say, well, how did we get to where we are, or how did we make that decision, or how are we spending our money? The power is with the people. So,
Budgets don't happen and zoning doesn't happen,
yeah.
Right.
among other things, but those are the two big ones.
At town meeting, right? And so many questions that people will have, well, why is this or why is that? It's like, well, back in 1983, when town meeting voted this, or even, we talk about like the cemetery, that was a town meeting vote from 50 years ago. Like, it has impacts going forward for quite some time, things that are really important. So I hope lots of people turn out.
Yeah.
It would be nice.
I hope a lot of people run.
That too,
Yeah.
for sure.
There are so many precincts that often have open, that, there's not enough candidates for the open seats on the ballot. So you end up having, a write-in candidate that gets elected to town meeting with just one vote, their own vote. And, some that can be a good and bad thing, but I always encourage people run so that, there's choice in the community, and it's a good thing. So.
Yeah, and I think, what your intentions are as a town meeting member, or any person that's, part of our town government is, really looking out for what the broader community wants and needs. So there's a lot of responsibility with it, and I think that, again, having other town meeting members there that can share their perspectives around that will be helpful.
Yeah, it's great. Reduce the barrier to entry, make it a little bit less mystifying.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Looking forward to it. So the date on that again, just so people know?
February 8th at the Senior Center, 7 p.m. And we'll post some information on the town website. I know there's some information there too, but if you are coming and you're at the Senior Center has a food pantry. The community fridge is right there at the Senior Center, and I know that the Senior Center does accept donations. I know they have jewelry. So if you are coming and you want to take a look and bring something with you, it's not required.
Great idea.
But it's just a good opportunity while you're there.
Thanks. So time is really flying by quickly, but I definitely wanted to get to something that's sort of new on our horizon. I mean, I know that we first heard about it back in March of 21, but it's really starting to take shape now, and that's something called MBTA communities. And I know you would offer to take this piece and kind of share with the public a little bit about what we heard at our meeting and what it's going to mean. And again, this is a really nice tie-in because town meeting is going to have a very important role to play in this.
Yes. Yeah, so MBTA communities law is a new law that requires multifamily zoning permitted by right for MBTA communities, which are defined as cities and towns serviced by the Mass Bay Transportation Authority, which includes adjacent communities such as Shrewsbury. So we have Worcester and Grafton, both next door, that have train stations. So we're considered an adjacent community. So it requires these towns and cities to, like I said, create multifamily zoning permitted by right. It's an effort at the state level to address the housing crisis in our state. So we have one of the highest rents and property values of all states in the country. So there's an increased pressure on low and middle income families, which impacts our state economy and future job growth. So by creating multifamily housing in proximity to public transportation, the goal is to address the need for housing in the areas where people work and spend their time, and then increase the utilization of public transit, which in turn is another step in addressing climate change. The law dictates that we must have at least one zoning district in which multifamily housing is permitted by right without age restrictions, meets affordability guidelines, and is suitable for families with children. And it must have a minimum density of 15 units per acre. So what this means for Shrewsbury, as of 2020, Shrewsbury had almost 15,000 housing units. So we must zone one or more areas in town totaling at least 50 acres to allow for the development of a minimum of 1,497 units by right, which means that they don't need a special permit in order to build. So as an adjacent community, we're not required to be within a certain distance from the location of those transit stations. So these zones can be located anywhere in town. They can be it can be one single zone, which would be almost impossible to find in Shrewsbury at this point, or they can be broken up and located in various areas throughout town. So we don't actually need to construct these units, but we do need to provide the zoning. There are questions, what happens if we don't comply with this? So if an MBTA community does not comply with the regulation, they'll be ineligible for state funding from the Housing Choice Grant Program, Local Capital Projects Fund, and Mass Works Infrastructure Program. It also may impact eligibility for the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development grants and the Brownfields Redevelopment Fund. And each of these programs have multiple sort of programs that fall under their umbrella. So the question is, how much have we already received from these grants, and what can we anticipate going forward? So just in the last few years, Shrewsbury has received almost $5 million in grants that fall under these programs that are in which the eligibility is impacted. So the MassWorks grant, we have $3.75 million for Route 20 improvements related to the Edgemere development where the new market basket is, and $600,000 for the design of sewer extensions on Route 20 and Route 70. Under the Mass Development grant programs, we have $50,000 in the Town Center Visioning Study and $302,000 in the site readiness at Centec Park. And then under Massachusetts Downtown Initiative grant programs, we have $25,000 for a bid feasibility study, $60,000 for local rapid recovery plan, the wayfinding study, parking management, Lakeway Business District. So this has been a significant source of funding for our community for really important programs that have impacted a lot of infrastructure things, and it could have a big impact on our community. So
and when you go back further than that, there was money that went for the Centec North at South Street. There were other big money projects, like not as big as the Route 20 down at Edgemere, but it's serious money.
Yeah. And these are, the ones I listed are just from the last few years alone.
Right.
And so that's, almost $5 million. And that's something, we can expect to continue receiving this type of funding over the coming years for different programs that we're working on in the community, if we maintain our eligibility for it. So as far as what the next steps are for this, we have submitted the action plan form that was due at the end of January. And there's, we need to work on developing the local action plan, zoning proposal. We have to submit a proposal to the planning board and then bring it to town meeting. So we can expect to see this at town meeting, hopefully at the annual town meeting in May of 2024. So we're just about little over a year away from there. And the cities and towns must meet the requirements of this by the end of calendar year 2024. So,
And just to go back to those 1,500 units, doesn't mean they have to be built.
correct.
It has to be zoned for that.
Yeah.
Because when I first heard it, I kind of freaked out, and then I realized what it said. But the potential is there. But if the land's not built right, I mean, if the land's not built right, if the land is not, if the topography's not right, the wetlands or whatever, it can't be done. But it does open the door for a lot of housing.
It does.
It does. And I think that that's something, you know, if we're being honest, that's part of our process, is to be able to tell the town how we can respond to that type of growth. And, you know, we hear residents already concerned with the growth. And so we are mindful of how all of this will impact us, you know, not just from an infrastructure, but, you know, from, you know, services, et cetera. So it's good that we at least have the time to really be thoughtful about how we can comply. It's, you know, to your point, we could quote unquote opt out of it, but the state has made it so that opting out is really not fiscally reasonable for our town, so.
Correct. And also too, I think by working on this now, there are some housing projects that we know are on the horizon that potentially, if we zone properly, can be counted toward the stock, and that would help us a little bit. And again, I think it's really important that people understand no one's saying that we're building 1,500 units of housing tomorrow.
Yeah.
That this is something that's coming from the state to address the housing need, and that we are required to comply with, or there are very severe penalties that would have a fiscal impact on
Right.
us.
And the other thing is, we can zone over existing zones with this. So if there are zones that are heavy, and we do have some zones that are heavy on multifamily housing, we can zone over that too. You can get creative. I don't know how far they let you push it, but you can. So it's a little daunting, but
Right. Let's stay
you know,
tuned.
at MMA, there was a lot of talk about this.
Yeah.
It's coming, and how are we going to deal with it? So there's quite a buzz. Anybody who's either an MBTA community or
Yeah.
adjacent
Yeah.
was talking about this.
Which
Well,
really
this is a big
impacts.
deal.
Yeah.
It's almost every single
It's
community,
every
in the
community,
state,
pretty much.
from just west of Worcester all the way to the Cape Cod Canal.
Well,
It's
and
almost
north.
every single community.
North all the way up to Newburyport and way up there.
Yeah, anywhere that the commuter rail lines touch, or adjacent communities, which really covers the eastern half of the state.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Well, I will say we have like 30 seconds to go. This has flown by. So I think I will just have to wrap it up and look forward to our next opportunity to come together. This building will probably be open by then.
Yeah,
But thank you,
exciting.
everybody, for watching this edition of Select Board Roundtable.